Here's the secret. Money is not in the service. It's in the selling of the service. If you guys didn't know this, we pretty much all do the same thing. Don't tell anybody. We have the same marketing packages. We use the same awesome photographers, right, CL? It's not in the service. It's in the selling of the service. What do I mean by that? When you go and you sit down and you talk with somebody, do they want to be sold? Do you want to be sold? No. But what you can do is avoid talking about your services first. Here's a challenge. First 15 minutes, don't talk about you at all. Ask questions. What are they looking for in an agent? What do you expect from me? We're going to get into some of these details, okay? And all of a sudden, they're attracted to you. They want to work with you. And then the service just falls in line. They're like, oh, of course, that's what you would do, okay? Selling of the service. People hire you when it feels good. You guys know that, right? Of course you do. Do you go back to a restaurant where you didn't feel good eating there? Maybe you didn't like the food, maybe you got sick, maybe the service was poor, maybe it was too good of a service, too attentive. I'm one of those people. Don't come to my table and refill my drink until it's empty, please. Okay? When it feels good, they're going to hire you. So we got to get out of our own way. Here's some things I want you to remember. Take a picture of this slide if you want to. Emotional conversation creates emotional connection. Every single one of us are emotional beings. Even the stubbornest of young or old men in this room, I am like overly emotional many times. If you're not this way, get this way. Learn to be vulnerable. Emotional conversation creates emotional connection. Bring up common objections before they do. Name an objection, somebody. Call out an objection. Price. Price what?
My neighbor's house sold for more.
My neighbor's house sold for more. Good. What else? It's wintertime. It's not the right time. I want to think about it, okay? These are things we want to bring up in our presentation before they can even mention them. Because if we don't, it's going to come up at the end and we're going to go, yeah, I guess whatever, right? And we're going to stumble and we don't know what to do. So we're going to avoid that. Be less technical and more relatable. Gosh, I love Mac Nichols, but I don't understand half the things he's talking about up here, okay? Guess what? When somebody asks me about 1031 exchanges, boop, 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 call Mac, please. Because I'm not technical, right? But if we are too technical, I mean, it's good to be data-driven. You come prepared and you have that CMA. But if you're going on and on and on and averaging stuff together and all this stuff, you're going to get, I mean, you've seen it. People gloss over and you lost them. They're gone. We want to avoid that. Relatable. Be the guide, not the hero. Anybody familiar with storytelling as part of marketing? Anybody heard this before? It comes in my Facebook feed all the time, all these ads. You got to tell a story, tell a story, tell a story. It's true. In every story, there's a guide and there's a hero. Who is the hero in our stories? Who's the hero in this business arrangement? The seller. Correct. The client. That's right. Exactly. Who are you? The guide. What does a good guide do? Does a good guide come along and be like, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this? We think that's a good guide, but it is not. That's an annoying guide. We'll get into that, okay? Pre-qualification is everything. If you're not doing this, I'm not going to teach you how today because we don't have enough time, but if you're not doing this, do it. All the lenders in the room do this. They pre-qualify their buyers. Why aren't we pre-qualifying our sellers? How many of you get a call from somebody, hey, kind of thinking about selling my house, and you immediately get in the car and you drive to their house. Let's have an appointment, like right away. Don't do that. You need to have a conversation before you do that, because guess what? You're going to get to that house and they're going to be like, oh, well, if that's the value, we just want to rent, right? Or my husband's not home, I really can't make a decision right now. And you've wasted half a day. Anybody been in that position? I have. I got tired of it. Pre-qualification. If you want to know what that's like, I have a conversation scripted. It is beautiful, let me tell you. I'm doing a virtual workshop next month on that. You guys can all attend if you want. We'll get into that. Okay, the map. Listing presentation, right? There's a map. There's 3 sections to a listing presentation. The time you arrive to the time you talk about price. Time you arrive to the time you talk about price. Then there's the time you talk about price. Pricing portion. And then there's handling objections and closing. That's it. It's a map. You follow it. You get off this map, you're going to get into a place you don't want to go. And it's going to feel weird and awkward and you're just out of here. One more thing. Are you practicing like a pro? Can anybody do professional sports? Dude, we'd all be filthy, stinking rich if that was the case. It'd be pretty funny too, wouldn't it? No, you can't. How do you become a professional athlete? You kill yourself practicing. My kid, he's 14. He's quarterback of the JV football team. He's second in line next year for varsity here at TA. Kid wants to be a quarterback. Everything in me is like, please have a backup plan. Right? But you don't say that, right? My mom did that, killed my dreams. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say, please practice. Let's go out and practice. Let's go throw the ball. Who can I get him in touch with? Who can I get him in the room with? Who can I get him on the field with? Do not take what I'm saying lightly. If you do not have a script, if you do not have a practice plan in motion for doing something like a listing appointment, what are we thinking? And I'm guilty of this. I want you to at least practice in the car on the way over. How much is a listing appointment worth? Money. How much?
3%.
Or 2% or 2.5%. How about in thousands of dollars? How much could it be worth?
10 to 15.
Exactly. And we're not practicing? Tens of thousands of dollars in many cases, and we're not practicing what we're going to say before we say it. Oh, I got my CMA. I got my book. I got my nicely bound notebook. That's great, you guys. I got my snazzy marketing plan. But if you get in there and they ask you a question, you don't know what to say, you're going to look stupid. And I've done that. Do you want to look stupid? No. We wing it far too often. Sorry I'm laying into you. This is as much for me as it is for you. For real. I mean, think about a plane, right? A pilot. Pilot has a checklist. You think the pilot, okay, oh man, I don't want to do this today. We'll just wing it. You getting on that plane? How about a surgeon? We'll just wing it. Well, guess what? A home sale costs as much as major surgery sometimes. Practice. I don't care if it's an hour a day or an hour a week. Practice. 7 closes before we even begin to talk about price. What do I mean? What is he talking about? Okay, in the sales world, we have something called closing, right? And I'm not talking about the day you sell the house, not settlement. Closing means you're locking that client into you, that prospect into you. You're doing everything you can to get a yes out of them, not a manipulation, helping yourself get out of your own way, helping them get out of their own way. We want to do this 7 times, 7 yeses. 7 no's is fine too. I love yeses, I love no's, I hate maybes. That isn't a close, okay? When you arrive at the door, we want to start closing. Someone's going to be in control, and that is going to be me. Gone are the appointments where I let them take me around the house without me telling them to do it first. Zach, that's so controlling. What does your wife say about this? I don't treat my wife that way. Just my clients. They want you to take control. This is a secret. This is a hack here. If you show up at their house, oh, what should we do first? Oh, well, I guess we could take the tour, or why don't we sit down in the kitchen or on the couch and the little dog will come up and hump your leg. You don't want that, right? You've got to take control. If you don't take control, they're going to take control, and you're not going to be able to do anything effectively, okay? So how do we do that? First, show up at the door and be dressed decent, Cody, okay? Come on. Okay? I can say that. No, for real, like, match your brand, okay? Give a good impression with what you're wearing. I see tons of agents that, I don't see tons of agents. Thankfully, in our area, we have really professional people, and I'm thankful for that. But wear, look nice, look sharp, do your hair. Smile. Smile. That comes more naturally for some of us. Earlier in my career, I was like, I'm here to do business. Let's do business. Smile, you guys. Extend a handshake, okay? Take control. Here's what I do. Hi, thanks for having me today. It's a pleasure to meet you. I don't care if this is a friend, family member. It's great to see you again. That's fine. Or somebody who's a stranger, okay? Great to meet you. Thanks for having me out. Would you like me to take off my shoes? If they say no and I see a line of shoes, I take them off anyways. And I make sure I don't have holes in my socks. It's a sign of respect, you guys. It's a sign of respect. You're walking into somebody's house, they're considering giving you thousands of dollars, okay? We want to impress, right? Go through the house and start closing. So here's how I do that. Some people don't do the tour first. I love doing the tour first because I'm able to establish rapport. I'm able to get comfortable. I'm able to throw a few jokes in, understand what they're about. It's very natural and casual for me. This is how I do it. Hey, why don't we take a tour? Let's do a quick tour through the house. That'd be okay? They're like, sure, let's go. Well, I like to tell them where, and they love it, okay? Well, why don't we start upstairs, and then we'll go down to the basement, and we'll end in the kitchen. How does that sound? Perfect, let's go. What does that do when I do that? It takes out any questions of what's going on. And it feels so smooth, you guys. You just have to do it. You're not stepping on anybody's toes. This is why they called you. You're the pro they want, okay? So here's what I like to say. First thing I like to say is that, and we go through the house, and then I say, so I've noticed that the house is really beautifully decorated, and you have very tasteful furnishings. When we have offers start coming in, should I be telling people that those furnishings are going to convey, or are you going to be taking those with you to your next destination? What just happened with that? What did I do? Closed. Who said that? Yeah. When who has offers come in? We. When we have offers come in. It's an assumptive close, if you've never heard that. Assumptive close. Get good at it. The next thing I like to do is maybe we're in the basement and they're telling me about their fancy doorknobs and all the painting they've done in the house and the new carpet they put in, and I go, well, that all sounds great. And if I remember correctly, John, you are not planning on making any kind of major improvements or changes to the property before we start to bring buyers through. Is that correct? You just want me to sell it as is, where is, correct? You see what I'm doing here? When who brings buyers through? Little trick, I'm not going to bring buyers through. But the idea is me, my team, right? When I start to bring buyers through, when who lists the house, when who sells the house, as is, where is? Me, when I do, okay? Now, then comes the seated conversation. Everybody's favorite part. This is what I mean, stay in control. Do not let them sit you on that couch where you're going to sink down in and get stuck and just get up and there's dog hair all over you. Don't do that. Invite them to the kitchen table. It's that easy, especially if you end in the kitchen. Hey, it's all right if we have a seat at the kitchen table. We'll get into the rest of our meeting together. They love it. Absolutely. It just flows like this guy knows what he's doing. You sit down. Where do you sit? Where do you want him? Do you want him here? Is this okay? Trick question. No, it's not okay. You guys know the answer. Why isn't it okay for them to sit there opposite you? Anybody? Adversarial. That's right, yeah. Even in the word opposite, right? No. We're on the same page, okay? So I like there and there, or even better, I like them on the same side if there's two, okay? Because then my gaze doesn't have to shift from one to the other, and they're not adversarial. People do what they want to do. I really like having if there's a man and a woman, I like having the woman closest to me. I just tend to connect well with women. That's me personally. And I've often seen that women tend to feel undervalued even if they're not in major conversations. And so for me, it's not always the case. I'm not trying to be sexist here. But for me, I like to have him, her. That really helps me. Definitely don't put them opposite you. If they sit down opposite you, get up and move. And make some excuse like, oh, I'm just going to sit here because I want to. For real, they don't care. Or you can invite them to sit down before you do, right? It'd be great if you guys have a seat right here and I'll sit right here. How does that sound? We don't do this, do we? It's easy enough to just say it. You just got to put it in your words. You got to practice. You got to put it in your mouth. You can do it, okay? Those are the kinds of things that just take away the discomfort. They take away that uncomfortable feeling. Okay, so what do you say? Thank you. Start off with thank you, you guys. Thank you. Before I get into it, I just want to say thanks so much for the opportunity to be here with you today. I take every one of these appointments very seriously, and I feel like it's a privilege to be here, so thank you. And mean it, right? And then shut up. Let them respond. Let them say, well, yeah, of course. We're glad you could be here too. Ask how they're feeling. Anybody ever heard of this or tried it? It's a big one. Who's married in here? All right, a lot of you. Ask your spouse how they're feeling every day. It will change your life, side note. Why are we asking them how they feel? Because they want to tell you. They're feeling all kinds of stuff. I mean it, man. I have had people start crying when I ask them this question. And it'll be right here. Thanks so much for being here, or for having me be here today. I really appreciate it. Gosh, you guys, there's so much on your plate here. You told me you're going to be moving to Texas in 120 days, and I just really want to know, how are you guys feeling about all this? And guess what, man? All kinds of stuff comes out. And when all kinds of stuff comes out, you got them, baby. It's not about getting them, though. You're there. You're connected. You have the emotional connection. That vulnerability is lowered, and you are connected. They don't want to work with people who are just, hey, here's the number, here's the thing, here's what I do. No, you walk in there and you say, how do you feel? You instantly stand out from everybody else. Instantly. And you're going to know if they don't want to share, and that's okay. You just move on. But a lot of times, I'll get a nice lady who will be like, gosh, I'm just feeling kind of overwhelmed with this whole thing. I mean, we've lived here 25 years, and, it's my kids grew up here, and you just let them go. You're like, man, I really know where you're coming from. This is something I do on the daily basis with my clients, and I really appreciate you sharing that with me, and I just want you to know I'm here to help. That's genuine, okay? Practice. Practice that. You will win over people that way. Little trick. Okay. They start to feel heard, understood, and important to you, and they feel good. And then, if you follow up right, you get hired. Okay? The questions. I start with questions. I said earlier today in this talk, I said, first 15 minutes, don't say anything about you. That's real. Instead, we're going to ask some questions. And these are really, really good questions that are going to help us align the meeting to go somewhere that we want it to go. So first thing I like to say is, okay, as we get into it, I just want to go over a few questions that I think I know the answer to, but I just want to make sure we're still all on the same page from when we previously talked. Is that okay? Yes. All right? We want to keep them saying yes. So the first question I have, which I'm pretty sure I know the answer to, is you guys are definitely selling a home, right? You're not interested in keeping the house or renting it for any reason or holding on to it long term, anything like that. Is that correct? If anything's changed, wouldn't you want to know now? If they're like, well, actually, we are kind of thinking about renting the home if we can't get what we want for it. Okay, cool. That's going to inform me for the rest of my meeting now. And guess when I knew it? Now, at the very beginning, right? When I sat down at the table. A lot of times they'll be like, yeah, we're selling the home. Cool. All right, well, that leads me to my second question, which I also think I'm pretty sure I know the answer to. You guys want to price the home to sell, meaning you don't want to give it away, but you also don't want it testing the market and sitting around for 6 or 7 months. Is that correct? This always is a fun one. If you don't say you don't want to give it away, what are they going to say? I don't want to give it away. How many times have you heard that? I don't want to give it away. So you say it. Bring up the objection before they do, okay? You don't want to give it away, but you don't want it sitting on the market for 6 or 7 months, right? So what are we doing right here? We're handling this objection that says, well, I kind of want to list it high and bring it down and, la, la, la. And if they're like, I want to be in Florida or Texas in 120 days, we're going to bring that back into this discussion as well. Most of the time, they'll be like, yeah, we don't want to give it away, but we're just not quite sure how we want to proceed with that. So, okay, great. Well, we'll be talking about that today. So that sounds good. Now, what do you guys think of that one? Have you already decided to work with me? What? You're going to ask that right now? Have we talked about price? No. Have we talked about commission? No. Are we aligned? Are we emotionally connected? Yes. If they are thinking about interviewing other agents, when would you like to know? Now. We don't do this. I did not do this for a long, long time. Here's how it goes. So the third question I have for you, and it seems as if we're leaning this direction. Love that line. It seems as if we're leaning this direction. In preparation for this meeting, I sent you guys some reviews and some testimonials, and you guys both seem like savvy people, and I'm sure you've done your homework and your research in preparation for today. So my question to you is this. Have you guys already decided that you would like for me to list your home? Do you hear that? List your home. It's an embedded command, just a little sales tactic. And, like I said before, I love yeses, I love nos, and I hate maybes. But at least I now have a direction, okay? Sometimes I'll get, yeah, we have. Man, that feels good. That happens a lot if you do the first portion right. Or it's, we really like you, Zach. We think we'll be working with you, but we're just not 100% sure yet. Okay, great. Well, that sounds good. I just would like you to know that is my intention. Okay? And if you feel comfortable and confident that I can do the job well for you, get you the money that you need so that you can get to Florida or Texas or wherever it is, I just want you to know I do have the appropriate paperwork with me today so we can go ahead and get started when you're ready. Okay? That's all you got to do. Your intention is to work with them. That's why you're there. Their intention is to work with you, right? That's why they're there. Let's talk about it. If they say no, oh my gosh, what do you do? Pee your pants, right? That's okay. That's fine. Of course, it's a big decision. I want you to do what's right for you and your family. Okay? And then you go on with the last thing I just said. Is there anything else that you would be looking for from me today that would cause you to feel comfortable and confident to just proceed and put me to work? That's another good one. Is there anything that you would be looking for from me today, that would cause you to feel comfortable and confident to just proceed and put me to work? The moment you walk out of that door, you have less chance of getting paperwork signed, okay? If you don't leave that meeting with paperwork signed, there's a reason. And you didn't present right, or you ran out of time, which means you didn't present right. Okay, this is a huge question. And they'll be like, well, I'm not sure about today, but, we just kind of want to hear about your commission and what the price of the home is and that kind of thing, right? Maybe they'll say commission, right? Well, what's your commission? That's an objection. Why is it an objection? Because I'm the one who brings up commission, not you. So we want to say, yeah, of course, that's a great question. I'm happy to have a conversation with you about that, and I can tell you, that's not going to be the reason we don't work together. I'm sure we'll come up with something that's mutually beneficial and fair to both parties. But it sounds like if we come to an agreement on the professional fee, there's nothing else that would prevent us from moving forward. Is that about right? Yes. See what I did? Pretend the objection is a boulder, okay? It's in your way. You pick it up and you move it. You acknowledge it and you set it aside. You'll come back to it later. Or they might bring up another objection, which is huge. You do not want to answer an objection right away. What's your commission? %. What's the problem with that? Anybody? It anchors them. Now they're thinking about that. You don't want them thinking about that. You haven't even sold your service yet. You haven't sold them, right? If you start introducing that kind of information at the beginning, that's all they're thinking about. And you know what? You're going to tell. If they say, well, what's the price? $600,000. Man. What's that face? Well, they were really hoping to get more. And now they're thinking about that instead of you and all the value you bring. Isolate it and set it aside. Okay? Make sense? 3 possible outcomes. I love telling people this. I love this. You guys are going to see why. So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what I know is there's 3 possible outcomes for our meeting today. The first is you could list the home with me. Another embedded command. You could list the home with me, which would be great. I'd love to work with you. The second one is, for whatever reason, you may not feel confident and comfortable, and you decide not to list the home with me. And that's okay, too. What did he say? That's okay, too. Okay, question for you guys. Ladies, especially. Remember your dating life? Have you ever had a guy come on too strong? Any ladies in here ever have that happen to them? Guy come on too strong? How's that feel? Icky. Leave me alone. Don't. You're not, ugh. You might even liked him at first, but then he's like, oh, I brought you flowers on the second date, and then he's dropping stuff off at your house. What? Whoa, creep. Take a step back. I know this from personal experience. But if you have a guy in your life or a girl in your life, guys, maybe you're in this situation too, and they appear unattached, right? Not detached, unattached. Like they're interested, but they keep to themselves. What does that do? That creates attraction, right? Same thing, man. Same thing works in the business world. Be completely unattached to the outcome. The third option, For whatever reason, if I feel like I'm not the adequate agent for you, I may humbly decline the opportunity. Most of you guys would never say that. Game changer, you say that. Game changer. They feel safe, they feel heard, they feel like it's about them, which it is, right? And we're training ourselves to remember that by saying these things. Pre-qual review and process. That's what we're going to talk about next. So we're still at the table, remember? Now we're going to get into reviewing things that we had in our pre-qualification conversation, which happens a week before when we set the appointment, okay? So we're going to review motivation and timing. So you were kind enough to share with me on the phone in our previous conversation that you're planning on moving to Florida and you'd like to be there in 120 days. Is that still correct? Yes. Or if something's changed, they'll let you know. The reason we bring that up is because we want them and us thinking about why we're doing this, okay? And how we're going to get them there. Now we're going to go through kind of what I call the administrative stuff. And we're going to ask these questions. I have a good list of questions I can share with you sometime if you would like them. So, would you like any help with moving from one house to the next? Or are you planning on hiring movers? Would you like a recommendation? And when you get to Florida, do you have somebody who's going to be helping you purchase a home, or would you like a referral from me and my network? Et cetera, et cetera. Oh, and when we get into the showing process of the transaction, who's the person who's going to be home the most? Who should I be communicating with? Oh, the wife. And what's your phone number? And would you like me to text you or call you? And are you going to be gone for a portion of the day that we can block aside for showings, et cetera? You guys get it? We're already working together, man. We're going through all of this stuff now because we got this feeling of, hey, we're working together, we're doing this. The guy knows what he's doing. Still haven't talked about price. Still haven't talked about commission, okay? Always be moving the process forward. And I don't mean push. Ask the right questions to move the process forward. It's just natural, right? By the way, I don't think I mentioned this, but there will be a recording of this available to you guys if you would like it later. Pricing conversation. Man, I hope they agree. Let's change that. Self-discovery. Self-discovery. We want people to be taught, but we'd rather people be led. When you lead someone, do you tell them everything? Or do you let them discover? You let them discover. The most effective leaders let people fail, and they let people discover. So leading with authority, those days are over, man. The authority approach was a time before the internet. It was for a time before the internet. Everybody can get online and look up comps and get an idea of their estimated value of their home, and they think they know it all. And sometimes they do. So if we go in there and we say a number, just blurt it out. Here's what it is. Here's what I'm selling for. I'm not doing anything else. Dude, be prepared to meet resistance because they're going to want something else because they've already looked into it. So instead, let's get used to some key phrases here. That is an option. That's an option. You're the boss. Whatever you decide, I'll support you 100%. Before you panic, we're going to get into how those work. Okay? We're not just agreeing to everybody whatever they want. But I want you to get away from, here's how it is, here's what it is. Do this. Instead, let's lead. So we're going to guide their thinking. Remember, we're the guide, not the hero. They are the hero. The guide comes along and helps the hero be the hero. The guide is the real hero. Don't tell anyone. So now we want to transition by explaining what's left to discuss, the price. Transitions are sometimes weird. Like, you got to have a way to get from one thing to the next. So it's important to have some sort of scripting or practice. I like to say, all right, cool. Well, thanks for going through all that administrative stuff with me. Sounds like we're on the same page with how we want to position the property and take care of all these things. So really all that's left at this point is discuss price. Sound good? Yes. Okay? I love doing that. Getting a yes. Who knows what the endowment effect is? Anybody heard that before? Nobody? Okay. Let me ask you a question. How often do you run into sellers who overvalue their property, more or less times? More. That's the endowment effect. We believe something is worth more because we own it and we like it. Anybody got a nice car they're really proud of? It's probably not worth as much as you think it is. Don't shake your head. We had to curb the endowment effect by putting on a framework for the seller's thinking to be a buyer, right? Because buyers don't think of homes the same way sellers do. Unless you're an investor, maybe. It's time to put on our buyer hat and we'll see what kind of price range emerges. Not a pinpoint to the penny, but a reasonable and realistic range. So here's what I like to say. All right, so we're going to get into the pricing portion of the presentation. So what I'm going to do is bring up my CMA, which I've already emailed to you the day before, the night before, the week before, or whatever. And we're going to go through that. And as we go through that information, I want you guys to remember back to when you bought this house, okay, and what that was like. Because we're going to be putting this house on the market and engaging with people who were just like you when you went and bought this house. And what we're going to see emerge is not a pinpoint to the penny in the value, but a reasonable and realistic range that will give us an idea of where to start. Does that make sense? Yes. Isn't that good? Just take them right in. And now they have the mindset of a buyer. If you don't do that, it makes it so much harder, you guys. If you don't do that, it makes it so much harder. Now, you have to be the judge of your prospect. I'm coming at this as if it's somebody that, you're meeting maybe the first time, second time, right? If it's a friend, family member, do your approach thing the way you want to. But I like doing this. Help them think like a buyer. Why? Because we're not thinking beings that feel. We think we are. But we're actually feeling beings that then think, especially when we're in situations where we have to where we feel pressure to say yes to somebody or make a decision on the spot. We tend to lock into feelings. And you guys, you've all experienced it. Like you've seen somebody just shut down and you're like, I lost them, right? They're locked into a feeling. And that's influencing their thinking. So if we can influence their thinking before they start feeling, huge. Don't show and tell, educate and allow for self-discovery. So what does that look like? When you have a CMA, the simpler the message, the easier it is to be received. I touched on this earlier about technicalities. It's okay to talk about square footage, beds, baths, all the things, but let's keep it simple. 3 actives, 3 solds, 1 to 2 pendings. Less is even better, guys. You want to do 2 actives, 2 solds? That's great. If you have one that's like, boom, this is a perfect match, do it. That's fine too. I like this. For me, it works. Hard to do in a low inventory market sometimes. But you can do it. Think out of the box. You might have to grab a house from another neighborhood that's similar, but it's further away. Okay? You can do it. Use an iPad if you have one. Or a laptop. Something that you can get cozy around, scoot in. Hey guys, come on. All right, let's scoot in a little, get cozy, make a stupid joke, right? Like, people love that. And they get in, and you're close. You're friends. You're family now. Okay? You're surrounding this computer or iPad. Why do we want to use an iPad or computer, by the way, before I get to the next one? Any ideas? Why is that a good thing?
Smaller footprint.
What's that?
Smaller footprint.
Smaller footprint. Why else? What does it enable you to do that paper won't? Change? Yeah. What do you mean by that?
Change your data.
Change your data? Sure.
Results instantaneously.
Exactly. Instantaneous access to data. There could have been a house that sold that morning you didn't know about. More importantly, you can look at pictures. Right? If you print out a booklet, you print out every single picture. If you do, buy a new printer every year. Okay? That's fine if you want to do that. I like to bring the iPad to be able to go into the picture, look at it, swing through the photos. Okay? Super helpful. Create a collaborative, friendly, and trusting environment. So when you start with an active, let's find one that's priced too high. That's probably why it's active in this market anyways, right? Still on the market. So high day on market. When I say high, I mean even 60 days, honestly, that's kind of high, right? Sorry if anybody has a 60-day listing in here. You guys get it. That's why you're here. It's okay. Happens to me too. All right, start with one that's priced too high and has a high day on market. Look through the photos and ask questions to help them self-discover. All right, so here's how I do that. I pull the active up. All right, so on each of these properties, we're going to focus on a few things. One is going to be the square footage, and make sure it's a match with above grade and below grade square footage. Don't get any further than that. You're going to start just talking them out of paying attention, okay? We also want to look at the beds and baths, the age of the property and the location, but even more importantly, the condition, okay? So let's take a look at these photos, and we'll see what we learn about the property. When we go through the photos, people love looking at pictures of houses. Easy, right? So as we discover what's going on, we ask them some questions like, hey, do you notice anything about this property that stands out to you? Gosh, Zach, it's beautiful. It's great. There's nothing wrong with it. Looks awesome. Yeah, okay. And What are they asking for the property? Make them say it. Ask them. Like, you don't have to point it out. Say, so what are they asking for the property? Oh, $699. Okay. All right. And let me point this out to you. This days on market, DOM, what that number is, what is that? 370. Okay. All right. God forbid. 370. Okay, great. All right. So we've got this one done. Move on. Let's go to the next one. Don't draw a conclusion. Don't give them the answer. Don't tell them. Don't show them. Move on. Okay? Let's look at the next active. Okay? Do the same exact thing. Always drawing the connection between the price and the days on market and the condition of the property. If there's nothing wrong with the property and they can't identify something wrong with it, then we're going to ask them another question, and that will help them reach the conclusion that the price is too high on their own. So here's how the question goes. So as you look through these properties, and we notice there's nothing wrong with them, and we see the prices, and we see the days on market, why do you think they haven't sold? And shut up. We get caught up in this, man, I'm the expert, I got to have all the answers. No, you don't. You got to know them all. You got to have them, help them come to their own conclusions, and that gets you out of the way. There's less resistance. So what do you guys think? Why do you think these haven't sold? Well, gosh, I don't know. Maybe they have a bad neighbor. I've heard that one. So I have an iPad, so I can go on Google Maps, and if I'm lucky, I can do Street View. I can at least do GIS, very least. And, well, there's no turkey hatchery behind the house. Anything else it could possibly be? And I'm not patronizing. I'm not putting them down. I'm genuinely asking them what they think, like a good teacher or a good leader would do. 9 times out of 10, out of 1,000, whatever that number is, they are going to say, yeah, I guess the price is too high. Then we move on to what? Solds. Then we move on to solds and pendings. Same process. Point out how it compares. Look at photos. Look at the days on market. Point out the asking price and the sold price. Put the active and the sold next to each other. Ask the right questions. So as you look through these properties and you look at that sold one that was only on the market for 15 days, and now you look at the active one that's asking $699 and has been on the market forever, what do you think the main player was on why that other one sold? Well, the price is probably, price looks better. Yeah, I think you're right. So now we're beginning to see a price range emerge, right? Because now we can go, okay, so we've seen what the actives have told us. We've learned that the neighbors, that the other listings on the market are teaching us, don't do this. And we're learning that the solds teach us, do this, okay? By the way, I think I had this. This is high-level stuff, you guys. You're not telling, you're not showing, you are painting a picture with words. It sounds like it's hard, but I've just practiced. And you can do it. Okay, the magic question. I love this. Having seen this information, if you were going to buy this home all over again, where do you think you would be comfortable making an offer? And then be quiet. And they'll talk amongst themselves, and they'll go, gosh, Karen, man, I was really hoping to get a little more for the property, but now that I look at this data, I'm not sure about what we were thinking before. She might say, yeah, it might even be lower than what we were, and they'll talk and back and forth, and be quiet and let them talk. And then they'll say, well, Zach, I don't know, maybe like 540. And inside you're like, yeah, nailed it, right? Don't do that. Yeah, just look back professionally. If it's the right number or within the range, and go, yeah, I think you're right on the right track. And we're gonna see now how to strategize and determine an asking price. Okay? Isn't that cool? Crucial, right there. It's off of you. The seller comes up with the price on their own. They feel understood and educated, which results in trust. The pressure is off of you to come up with the quote-unquote right price. And they are less likely to be bought by another agent. When I say that, I mean an agent who will sign paperwork at a high price in order to just get the listing. I've been guilty of that before, early in my career. But when you do this right, they come up with it on their own. Now we just have to discuss strategy. And there's two options at our disposal, and whatever you choose, I'll support 100%. Price above and come down, or price at or below. Okay? Those are the two options. We all know that, right? And so we want to go over these two options and tell them the pros and cons of each. I'm going to skip through that because we're short on time. But the key at the end is you say, based on what you're looking to accomplish and why, in the time frame in which you'd like to get it done, what do you think we should do? It's still not on me. They're the ones identifying what they want. And this is huge. This is a huge way of helping someone feel heard, comfortable, listened to, and confident in you. Especially since people just think the world of realtors, don't they? We really are kind of in a tough spot a lot of times, and it's because too many of us don't do this. Uh-oh. Commission. Guess what? Pretty similar. We're just going to ask them. Okay? I'm going to tell you what I do. You guys do what you want to do, but this is what I do. I'm thankful for NAR, kind of. NAR. They've forced us to break out the fees, right? So that makes our conversation a little more normal, I think. In just about every other profession, fees are broken out, right? So I like to use listing packages. I don't know if you guys do this. Some of you might not. So what do I mean by listing package? Something like this, a bronze, silver, gold, platinum, good, better, best, doesn't matter what you call it. Red, yellow, blue, okay? But if you put listing packages together that say, for it's the smallest one, the bronze, maybe I just do the MLS listing and professional photos and flyers and fiduciary and all that stuff. Very simple. Silver, next step up, maybe we clean the house for you professionally or, we stage it. It doesn't matter, whatever you guys want to do. And you put a percentage on each one and you put that in front of them. Pressure is off, man. You don't have to sell a commission. It's right there. They can just choose from a menu. They don't have to worry about offending you. It's right there. So give them options. And then you say, hey, I like to do this. You can do this if you want. Ignore that for a second. I like to go, why don't you guys look this over? And I'm going to take one last loop through the house just to make sure I didn't miss anything. And I'll be right back, and we can discuss, answer questions, and see where you end up. Sound good? Yes. And I go take off. And that's when now they have privacy. Now they can really do it and talk about it, and they're not worried about offending me and feeling uncomfortable. I'm gone. And then I just walk around the house, and if maybe I did miss something, right? Like I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Then I come back, and I kind of look from one room over, and they're still talking. Okay, I feel like a waiter trying to refill drinks, right? You just keep going, just wait until they're done. All right, and then you come back, and you look again, and then okay, they're done. So you walk in, and you go, all right, you guys. So any questions about these packages, or have you made a decision? And if they make a decision, boom, you're done, close, paperwork. Let's do this. That easy. Based on what you're looking to accomplish and why and the timeline you want it to happen in, which one do you feel will serve you and your family best? Have we heard that before? Memorize it. Put it into your own words if you want to. How much do we pay the buyer agent? That's a new one now, right? Right? That's been there a little bit, but now it's a little more fresh. So how much do we pay the buyer agent? Well, similarly, we have options. Okay? We have options at our disposal, and whatever you decide, I will support you 100%. Before we review those options, I'd like to explain to you how we use the professional fee as a marketing tool. Would that be okay? Yes, of course. Show them a copy of the buyer agreement. Bring that with you. By the way, you should also bring a copy of a contract, because that's what they're going to be signing one day, and if they want to go through that, you can do that at this appointment. Read them the seller credit statement and tell them what's been customary. This is the seller statement, or the credit statement. Compensation paid by the listing firm to a buyer's broker or paid by a seller, which compensation, if any, is offered, will be credited against the fee due by the buyer to the broker. I love doing this because it reminds them most buyers are hoping to get a credit. That's how it's been done for a long time. And I tell them what's customary. By the way, if you aren't doing this, if you're serving buyer clients and you're not doing this and going over this, you're making a big mistake because this is law. Okay, you need to do this. But let's show the seller, because maybe they haven't bought a house in a while. Plus, all this stuff has changed recently, and they don't know. So let's show them. Let's show them what the buyer is dealing with, okay? So I like to say something like, remember when I asked you to put your buyer hat on? Well, most home buyers are going to be in a situation where they're shopping for several homes, and they're going to be looking at a lot. Very few buyers go and buy one house right away, right? So if you were a home buyer trying to decide which homes to view, and several are offering to pay the professional fee, and one or two are not, honestly, which homes would you be more excited about seeing? Well, the ones that are offering the fee, right? Because it's less that I have to pay out of pocket. Exactly. So just by you saying that, I can see that you're drawing a connection between the fee and it being a marketing tool. So we have a few options. Option one would be offer nothing, which we just have to keep in mind. If we do that, it might limit the views of our property. Option two, offer less than what is customary. Option number three, offer what is customary. Who knows what I'm going to ask them? What do you think we should do? But 99% of the time, they'll ask you because they're tired of hearing it, man. They just want to know what to do now. And they'll go, well, we're not an agent. What do you think? What's been your experience? And then you can just give them your honest and professional recommendation. Pull out a net proceeds estimate. That's awesome, by the way, if you have it on your iPad or computer. You put that together and they can see at the bottom what they're walking away with. And if you don't know their mortgage amount, that's fine. Doesn't matter. They're going to see, they'll be able to do some quick math in their head, and then ask them this: would that allow you to make this move happen? Not, will that be enough? Because it's never enough, guys. Never enough. Would that allow you to make this move happen? Most of the time they'll be like, yeah, we can do that. Or they'll enter into negotiation, and you just have that discussion. You know, totally fine. Whatever you decide, I'll support 100%. Now we're talking about closing, which is different than presenting. You know how I like to describe closing? Are we doing this or not? Taking off, like, are we doing this or not? Get it all out on the table, baby. Different than presenting. But guess what? If you present it correctly, it's just going to happen. I mean, you're just going to get there. It's like, man, when I treat my wife nicely, it's going to get there. When I clean the house, when I bring flowers, when I do the right stuff, man, that's going to get there, right? And if it doesn't, it's like, I thought I was going to get there. That's what we feel like when we get in the car after these appointments and we don't close. So I would encourage you to close, okay? Different than presenting. Ask and you shall receive, okay? I know it's a Bible verse that's totally out of context, but it applies here. It applies because we don't ask. How do you want to get the business if you don't ask for it? This is like number one sales rule, okay? Ask for the business. In order to receive, ask. But how do you ask? How do we do that? May I make a suggestion? So they're feeling good about everything. They chose the price. They chose the commission. They feel good about you. You're emotionally connected. They're being vulnerable. You're being vulnerable. Tears have been shed, maybe. May I make a suggestion? Let's proceed. Let's just go ahead and take care of the appropriate paperwork, and we'll move forward. Sound good? 99%. I kid you not. 99% of the time, yeah, let's go ahead. This feels really good. Let's do this. If they hesitate a little bit, I like to throw this in. Look, I understand it's a big decision. My intention is never to pressure you, but to just help you make the best choice for you and your family. Based on everything we discussed, I'm confident we can achieve your goals. Should we go ahead and proceed? If you guys want another way to do this, have them say no, okay? This is one I'm kind of trying to practice a little more. I haven't implemented it yet. So take this with a grain of salt. But you could say something like, would it be the craziest idea for us to go ahead and proceed? Nah. Okay, cool. Well, let's do it. You know, so there's variations of this, and you can use based on how comfortable they are at the time. Handling objections. If you do this presentation the way I've told you, you will have very few objections. But I can tell you, you can get confident on answering objections and handling them as well, because they're all the same, guys. Sellers are not sitting around in a class like this going, what can we do to object to our real estate agents, okay? But you're here in this event in order to be like, how can we handle this? So if you practice these, you'll be fine. I'm not going to go through them all because we don't have time. But the most common ones are, what if you bring the buyer? Another agent said they could list it higher. Another agent said they could lower their commission. What is the problem with answering an objection right away? We went over this earlier. Who remembers? What is the problem with answering an objection right away? There might be another one right behind it, or you might have shot yourself in the foot. So how about this? What if you bring the buyer? Oh, well, I guess, how do you mean? Or could you explain? And they will. They'll appreciate that question because you might not know what they're talking about. Does everyone always say what they mean? I try to, but my wife and I, man, no. Like, a lot of times we say something to just like defense mechanism or whatever. We don't know what they're talking about yet. So how do you mean? Oh, well, you know, like, do we pay you the full commission if you represent both sides? Okay, well, they got a couple things wrong there. For me, I don't represent both sides, okay? So Here's how I like to say it. Well, I guess what were you thinking? That's fine. I don't have a problem with them thinking maybe it's a lower commission, but what are the odds that I'm bringing a buyer? I mean, next to nil, right? Okay? You guys are bringing the buyer. So I'm comfortable with that. You guys have to get comfortable with what you're comfortable with, but what if you bring the buyer? Well, what were you thinking? So just ask them. These other two, we've already taken care of these because in the presentation, they identified their own price. They identified their own commission. If these come back up, we can talk about that another time. There are ways to handle these that are just as easy as what I described a minute ago. But if you do this presentation, that should not come up at all. So final thoughts for you guys. Get into the emotions. Don't be afraid to go there. Ask how people are feeling. And if you get stuck, ask. So like maybe they do shut down. Maybe you said something too soon or they're just feeling weird and you notice something on their face changes. Pause what you're doing. Have silence. That sparks curiosity. What's going on? Hey, I don't mean to pry, but I'm not sure if I said something or it just seems like there's a look on your face that says you're kind of struggling with something we talked about. Am I right about that? You got to be looking, got to be able to identify that stuff, and then just ask. Most people want to be talked to that way. They want to know that they're being acknowledged. That means you're really looking at them. Okay? Don't show and tell. Ask and then shut up. Let them talk. Address objections before they do. Those are the 3 biggies. Who in here feels more prepared for a listing appointment after this presentation? Good. Good. I'm glad.